Okay, you're all set.
Okay, thanks, Carol.
You're welcome.
I guess I'll bring the meeting of October 6th, 2020 to start it. The first item on the agenda was approve old minutes. Does anybody
Thanks.
have any problems with the discussions, or should we be? If not, would anybody like to approve the minutes? Make a motion?
So move.
Okay, that was.
Second.
Sheila. Thank you. And Rob is seconding it, sounds like. Yep, good.
Yeah.
All right. Can we have a vote? All the ayes say yes, or
Aye. You have to do it by person.
I say
Okay.
aye. Sue?
Just for the record here, number one, we need to clarify what members are actually present.
Okay,
And for the vote, you need to make sure that you call out each person's name so they can be recorded as
good.
they're voting in favor or not.
thanks, thanks, Carol. Thanks, Coach. Ann Beardsley, Betty Torfey, Carol Trokey had another meeting.
Right.
Heather and Mike Steers were going to be away. John Gwynn is here. Jason Burchard is here. John Farrier, I haven't heard from him in a while. Curtis Cohane. Paul Golombeski said he had another meeting. Chief Petron. Rob Maurer, you're here. Scott Rains may join us.
They're
Sheila,
both
you're
here.
Oh, good.
Both chiefs are signed in.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Tony, you're here, and Brett McKenzie seems to be away, I guess. Okay.
And Sheila McIntosh is also on, and Sue Terrio is on.
Yeah, yes. Did I not call those? Okay, good.
So John, just to clarify, are there 9 people present or are there more than 9?
There's 8 people plus me.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's what I see. Okay, great.
Okay, good. Thanks, Sue.
Okay.
So the first vote is to approve the old minutes. We had a motion and a second. Can I hear everybody vote for an aye, please? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
dissent? Any dissenters?
Aye.
Sounds like that's unanimous. Revisit the language to establish a vision statement. Sue, you and Rob spent quite a bit of time, it looks like, not only doing your homework, but getting way ahead of the game, which is wonderful.
Yes, and I sent everybody a copy. I hope you're able to access it. So we wrote the goal, and then the first 3 objectives relate to the bridge or the bridges, and the last objective relates more to the woods themselves and the need for a plan, a maintenance plan. So again, I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. And then at the end, the strategies were to form 2 separate subcommittees, one to work with the town administrator on the bridges, and the other to work on the more of the, the natural, the woods themselves for that maintenance plan. So this is, just a point of discussion. People may not agree with it, or maybe there's parts of it, that need to be adjusted. It was just to give us like a point to begin the conversation.
And the other thing is that plans are not static, they change. So as we progress with the project, the objectives will change, the strategy may change. So it evolves. So we probably occasionally should review what we have as the plan and then make modifications to it.
Would anybody like to make any changes to the goal to guide the restoration of Wilbur's woods so the scenic loop and recreational sites are accessible to people of all physical abilities while keeping the woods in their wild and natural state in concert with the gift of the Lloyd family?
I have just a question to Sue's point that this is for discussion purposes. And when I read accessible to people of all physical abilities, I wondered whether it might say varying physical abilities. So it's,
Yeah,
I don't think we can do all physical.
we may not, you're right, we may not be able to comply with
All,
wheelchair access through the potholes and so on,
right.
which are mostly, so various.
Varying.
John, this is
Yes.
Chief Rains. I agree with Sheila. I think if you put all physical abilities, then you are kind of putting yourself in a corner with making it ADA compliant, and I don't think we can do that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, which is hard to do, an outside site that's been that way for a long time. What's another word for saying various physical abilities? Or just say accessible to all people?
No.
No, various would work.
Is it physical abilities or age? I think it's probably the same, overlapping.
Well, there are handicapped people that can
Yes,
walk without
yes, yes.
assistance, so.
Well, I think various sounds like a great solution to me. I think that, does anybody think, I guess we should have a motion. Would anybody like to propose this as a motion?
This is Brett. I was just going to say, one of the ones that comes up is often is differing abilities.
Differing abilities.
Yeah.
Is that clearer than various?
It just seems to be something that sort of one of those, sometimes comes up as one of those code words.
Differing would seem to indicate sort of a spectrum of abilities, while various would be less
Different.
defined.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think differing would be better myself. Brett, would you like to make a motion with differing?
Why don't you hold the motions till we finish with all of them, and we'll have
Okay,
one
all right.
motion on the whole thing.
Okay, I think we may bog down on the rest, but okay, don't let me forget to have a motion then.
Okay.
All right, good. Okay, good. Why don't we look at the objectives? It's to have a completed engineering plan by February 2021, issue an RFP by November 2021, after scope is determined, select an engineer and pay for work with the current budget. I'd like to make a slight add to this based on the discussion that was had by several of us meeting on site this week to look at the stream bank erosion and so on. We thought it would be probably prudent to approach
over the computer
DEM first before we issue it, and ask them if they could point us in any direction that they are likely to enjoy seeing a proposal from us on later, so we don't have to go back to them and go back to expedite the process before we put out the RFP. But I think we can, I'd like to try to contact them in the next week or so and talk to DEM and see what constraints or directions they would have for us. And then immediately after, issue the RFP, which might be tweaked a little bit by what the state said. Does that make sense? It may seem to make
John,
sense.
I would suggest that you put that as a sub-bullet under the strategy where you form a subcommittee,
Okay,
because it all relates to
okay,
getting the money.
okay. It also relates though to your RFP, which we would,
Right.
so A could be either talk to DEM and issue an RFP by November 21.
Right.
Okay, okay,
I can add that.
okay.
Let me just make a suggestion to tell you how Sue and I arrived at the dates.
Okay, yes,
It was all based upon having money. Based upon the last meeting, Tony said there was enough money for engineering. So we said, well, we are too late for the next series of grants by DEM, which are probably just coming out now. we wouldn't be ready for that. So we said the next grant application is probably going to be December of 21. And if you want to apply for a grant through DEM, the town is obligated to put up 20% of what you're asking for, which backed up into the budget that we would have to have plans ready and know approximately what the ballpark costs are to have the 20% set aside budget period.
That makes sense, Rob. When you say the town's 20%, that 20% could, I presume, include grants from foundations, from individuals, from others that would go, there would be grants to the town. So it would be really the town's share. Is that correct?
Yes, the one thing that Sue and I weren't sure about is how about private donations?
Yeah. I don't know. I presume they would go to, the private donations would go to the town of Little Compton, but.
Right, and then the town would set them aside for this project, so they would
earmark them. Yeah.
How about, what do you think, Tony?
You're right on target, okay? That is correct. If the donations are being made to the town, set aside in a restricted account for that purpose, then there would be a contribution from the, or matching from the town. That's correct. They could count as a matching.
Okay.
So all the dates, the finishing in the summer or fall of 2022, they all back up into, applying.
Yep.
And be able, you can't apply without having some idea what the cost is and what the project looks like. And if you do apply, the town needs to have 20%. So the date's backed up based upon us thinking that we could apply for a grant of any type.
I think these dates are very realistic. You know how it is as we loop through for the town lending, the approvals of the council and so forth. So with that being said, it seems like this is a very reasonable timeline.
Tony, where would the council want would they, to vote on it, or have us to talk to them? What are there any dates within that time frame when the council would need to be brought up to speed?
Number one, to go out for an RFP, you need to do that, which is a very simple thing. It's put as a request, okay? Then the budget piece, there will be coming up very soon. Eventually we're going to start the budget. So there'll be something for us to figure out how much we're going to need to include on the budget for the council, the budget committee, and eventually the town finance, okay? The grant writing, we need to get clearance on that as well.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see what else. I think that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Also, when I read the newspaper, it sounds like in a national scale, both political parties are looking at national need for infrastructure repairs across America. I don't know if that will happen, but we might, if we have engineering and bids even ready, we might be able to get some federal money if we move, keep going with the schedule. I think this schedule is faster than the federal schedule, but I don't know how much money we're going to need, but I think this is a really terrific document.
No, it is very nicely done, right from the mission statement all the way through.
Yeah.
With that being said, when you're talking about federal funds, I'm not so sure we're going to be able to go in that direction. However,
I don't know.
As Rob pointed out, DEM certainly has a good pot of money, and this would be a wonderful project to go in that direction.
I agree, and I don't count on federal money, and it just would be a shame to not give the feds opportunity to help us if they wanted to, and if we needed it.
Never turn anybody away.
Who knows?
John,
Yep.
Sheila, under number 4,
Yep.
perhaps that's a place to, not everybody's seen this.
Yeah, I'm not focusing on that yet.
Okay, you want me to
No, keep going.
Okay, So what I'm thinking about is the, what I saw as ATV damage in the woods.
Yep,
And I looked up Tiverton ordinances for restrictions on motorized vehicles. And we do have a restriction in town for the beaches and for the Adamsville recreation field. So I think number 4 would be a place to add, amend an ordinance, and I haven't done enough work on this where exactly it would get inserted that would, under Wilbur Woods, I would hope, amend the ordinance to prevent ATVs from running around the woods.
Sheila, let me talk about that in a minute. That's our next item on the agenda.
Yeah,
I wanna
but I
just
think
make
it's it should be part of a maintenance plan
Okay,
to
all
protect the
right,
woods.
all right. I'm still, sorry, I'm bogged down. I'm still on objectives number 3. Is there anything, and I'm jumping ahead on the site visit where it looks like we may need more than work on bridges, but I'll get to that later. It may be a bigger project than we feared, or than we have been anticipating. But let's look at number 4 on the goal page. Maintenance plan by February 21. What do you think is involved? What are the elements in a maintenance plan? Are we looking at restoration? And Carol Tookey's not here. I know Carol feels that we should be thinking about ways of possibly having wildflower restorations and other elements. I don't know if we're going to get a whole maintenance plan by February 2021. Maybe we should stay. Do we have to put a date on that?
Usually if it's an objective, it has a date.
Okay.
But what you could do is just form the subcommittee and have them come back and we can change the date when they say they can do it by.
All right, okay, that's a good idea. I'd like to propose Carol for the subcommittee, partly because she's not here. Well, actually, it's something that she's very interested in. So, would anybody else like to be on the subcommittee?
Jason should be on the subcommittee. Those trees
Good.
are
I'd be happy to.
big maintenance.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for being volunteered.
It happens.
I'd like to be on that too. So I'd like to hear it. Okay, good. All right, so we'll create a subcommittee to, so we'll leave the maintenance plan by February 2021 and we'll request a report from our subcommittee by then. All right, strategy, form 2 subcommittees, one to work with the town administrator on the bridges and the other to work on the maintenance plan. We just did a maintenance
Right.
plan subcommittee. Would anyone like to be on the committee to work with Tony on the engineering and so on?
I'll do that.
Okay, Sue, good.
And I'll volunteer for that.
Yep, you good. And I'll volunteer too.
And I think we can make a simple change just to say bridges and road.
Okay,
I'll join you on that as well to do the liaison with Roger Williams if we, fingers crossed.
okay. Thanks, Brett. That's really good.
John, I'll volunteer for the maintenance.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. All right.
John, if I may, Tony,
Yes, sir.
Tony,
Yes. Hi, Tony.
we've got to be careful about subcommittees because
Oh, right.
once you have a quorum, okay, then you're gonna have to post, you have to go through all kind of loops. So I would caution how many people are joining each one of the committees.
Sure.
Actually, Tony, I need to clarify that.
Okay,
Any subcommittee of your committee will be required to post.
okay,
Doesn't matter if it's 2, 3, 4. If it's named as a subcommittee, then they will be required to post meetings.
Carol, thank you for chiming in. How many people are there in our subcommittee? I think that the document that you sent me has 18 members.
That's what was given to me,
Yeah,
that list.
so I'm presuming that's our list. That's what I've been working from.
Yes.
So I think that we're okay having subcommittees of 4 or 5. That won't even hit 50%.
Well, it doesn't matter how many you have on the subcommittee. It's the
Yep.
fact that it's named a subcommittee. If
Okay.
you were to assign a task to one person or 2 persons, but not make them subcommittees, then they
Okay.
would not be required to post meetings. But by saying that you're having all of these subcommittees,
Okay.
then that invokes the
Okay.
fact that they need to be listed on the Secretary of State's website as a public
Okay.
body, and they have to post meetings.
So what should we call the groups then?
This is Brett. Carol, excuse me, Carol, does working group avoid that problem?
No, it's one and
Okay.
the same. Yeah.
How about,
Why don't we
It's
just
that you
name
was-
the people? Why don't we just say that the following 3 people will work with Tony, or the following 2 people will work with Tony about getting the money? Or whatever. You know, instead of saying subcommittee, put the names of the people.
If you say that you're assigning someone a task,
Yeah,
a duty, and you're not considering them a committee by themselves to operate by themselves, then that's not considered a subcommittee and they don't have to get into the open meetings requirements.
okay.
It's the fact that you're calling them subcommittees of your group.
All right, so we take out the word subcommittee and we put the people's names.
okay,
You're just saying that you're assigning them tasks.
Yes.
okay.
Can you assign more, can you assign more than one person a task? Or is it something like John is looking at bridges and Carol is looking at the maintenance plan, and then they can ask other members for help?
Well, you can't mix business of the committee outside of these meetings without them being subcommittees of the group. So we couldn't assign, say, Tony and Sheila a certain duty, and then they go and talk to Sue and Jason about that duty, because that's a rolling quorum. So you can't do that. But you could assign both Tony and Sheila to act on a certain task, and then they come back and report whatever their findings are at your next meeting. But in between time, they're not actually taking any actions.
Mhm.
Okay, so kind of like what Rob and I did, we got together with a specific task and now we're back here reporting it, like that's okay.
Right.
Okay,
So long as it's not something where you're naming a committee is going to have some sort of control over a particular action.
okay,
So I think what we just did was we assigned Sue, myself, and John to work with Tony.
You're creating a committee that way, by doing it that way. I
Right.
want you to get away from the fact that you have a cluster of committee members that are going to start going off separately and do something.
Okay, so how would we phrase that then, Karen?
Assigning.
I wouldn't do so many. You know, if you've got somebody in, let's go with the one that was, I think it was a maintenance plan you suggested
Yeah.
that
Right.
Carol would be involved in. I would say if you're going to assign it to anybody, you assign that to Carol and Jason and let them come back to the full group with suggestions, and then you work on it from there.
Okay,
But the more people you put an assignment to, the more it starts to act like a subcommittee. If it quacks, it's a duck. And
right.
that's what you want to avoid.
All right, so why don't we assign myself and Sue to come back to the group with a plan that we've talked to Tony about. Sue and I will figure out the wording.
Yeah, well, frankly, I don't think you need to say talk to Tony.
Okay,
Just eliminate that completely. There's a
All right.
task that's assigned to Rob and Sue to handle it to the group.
To handle
Okay.
what?
I know, I kind of broke up. You're handling whatever that task is, but you're bringing back to the group the results of whatever you were tasked with.
Well, the task I think we were talking about was the bridges, and I know Brett and John were
Yeah.
also expressing interest. So basically you're saying pick two people.
If you have that many people that have interest, then you make it a subcommittee. It's not a huge problem, but
Okay.
you do need to have a meeting date where you're gonna gather together to have this conversation, and it needs to be posted.
Okay, I see. So I think for my interest, I was interested in helping with the writing of the grant. That's a specific task. So maybe I leave this more to,
We'll have to break it up into different engineering tasks,
right.
the grant writing and funding task, the
Okay.
maintenance plan task.
Okay.
And nobody has any legal responsibility on them. They're just coming back to our
Yeah.
our group with recommendations or observations.
Okay. So
So how many different elements do we have? I don't even dare use of noun. Anyway, we have the maintenance, looking at maintenance needs. We had 4 people, Carol, Jason, and Sheila. Why don't I step off that?
We have,
Carol, is 3 too many?
I don't know.
But if we're being sent out with individual tasks, then we're more acting as individuals anyways than a group.
Okay.
So is that how it's gonna work? So you're gonna say something to me specifically? Does that mean that I won't be able to meet with the other ones to discuss? Is it specific tasks?
So the drawback to comply with the open meetings law is to put together an agenda, which can be one item, and have it posted 48 hours before you meet, which Carol, I assuming would help with. So that's really the only drawback, if you want to call it a drawback, to being in compliance with the open meetings law. Is that right?
it's not that simple, because then you have to have an open meeting, which now includes Zoom. So someone has to set up
We
this.
can't be out there in the field. We can't be out there in the field
Sure.
looking at the state of Wilbur's woods.
We could.
If you did not get into this assigning people, but just had a silent agreement amongst yourselves that less than a quorum are gonna take a quick peek at Wilbur's woods and make notes and bring it back to the next committee meeting, then you're not assigning a task, you're not creating
Right.
another subcommittee. It's a fine line to have to follow, but if you're not going to want to have to post these meetings, and again, at the moment, our hands are tied because of the Zoom requirement.
Yep.
John is right, you can't really Zoom from
Oh.
woods because there's no internet connection there.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's the only problem. I mean, unless somebody has a super powerful hotspot that they're able to bring there and use, but I don't have one, so I can't help you.
So, Carol, if I just said we're going to have people should get opinions about the maintenance, and if you'd like to be part of that, send me an email, and it will be less than a quorum.
No.
No, okay.
Well, because What happens there is you get into a rolling quorum. Because let's, for an example, Sue sends you an email saying she's interested, and Rob sends you a message, and then you reply to both of them, but then they go and reply to Brett and to Jason, and before you know it, the whole committee's had a conversation on this. And that's where you get into trouble.
Even if we're not even discussing any content except just to have a time and agenda, a
Well,
time.
You can communicate through email or in person without violating the open meetings law if it is strictly for setting a date for a meeting. That's allowed.
All right.
But not if there's any discussion about what the business of the committee is. So you could not get into a discussion of the actual maintenance of Wilbur's Woods and what you think should or should not be happening.
Yeah. All right, this is complicated. I must admit, I don't see exactly how to handle it, but we will, I guess it sounded like we would have, people might want to sign up to maintenance or the maintenance plan, and others might want to sign up to the engineering.
This is my suggestion.
Yes,
I don't know if this would work, but
thanks, Brett.
Sheila had mentioned ordinance. So if Sheila can examine ordinances and come back to the next meeting with an ordinance proposal or something like that, I think
Right.
that would fit within these boundaries. And I think Jason and Carol, with their expertise in the flora and fauna of the area, can come back with something about maintenance, because it's dealing with, I think, with their specific talents that they're bringing back to the committee, but we want them to direct their talents in a particular way. I don't know if that works for Carol. And so we've got Sue, who's tasked with this grants investigation, and
Can we call them researchers?
I don't think you need to call them anything personally.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just need to recognize that various members of the committee have various areas of interest,
okay,
and that you agree, in this case, Sheila's gonna bring something back for a proposed ordinance to be considered.
okay.
Sue at some point is gonna bring something back for grant writing. Jason and Carol are gonna bring something back that relates to the maintenance of the Wilbur's Woods. You're gonna bring something back relating to another subject. So it's an assignment.
All right. Okay. All right.
And
Sue,
you know what, just more 2 cents on my part. John, as chairman, why don't you know the value and the talents of all of the people that are on this board? You as
Yes.
chairman have every right to be able to say, I want to assign Sheila to do this, Jason to do that, Tony to do this. And then it doesn't become a vote of the group, and they have the option
Okay.
to say, I'd rather not do that, but it's an
okay,
assignment coming from the chair.
okay, I'd like to assign Carol and Jason to look at the maintenance plan by February 2021, if they could do that date. Like to propose, I'd like to ask Sue to think about grant writing. I'd like to propose, I think, Brett and who else for engineering? Tony. I guess we're meeting with Tony, so he would be, that doesn't count. And I will do that. And I guess that's it.
I'll help Sue.
Okay. Okay, good. I'd like to have you involved too. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
I'm not trying to exclude you. Anyway, you know how it is. No, I think everybody's wisdom is needed. And these are assignments will come back to this committee. All right. So do we have a motion to approve this this page that Sue and Rob gave us with all of the changes that we just made?
Okay, so John, just
Yep.
So the strategy at the end where it says form 2 subcommittees, I definitely want to get rid of that.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I will assign tasks.
okay, chair will assign tasks.
Okay.
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 And they will, and we will be asking them to make reports to our group.
Okay.
Okay, good.
And the tasks were engineering, maintenance, grant writing. Was there another one? Ordinances.
Yep, ordinances, yes, we didn't, Sheila, you're not forgotten for ordinances.
No, I got her. Oh,
Even though you already have most of your work done, which is not bad. All right. Okay, can we have a vote? Do I have to read the whole list, Carol, for the vote? Or can we just ask?
Well, I can do it for you because I can see all the names on the screen if you'd like.
Okay, sure.
So John Quinn,
Aye.
Rob Mara,
Aye.
Sheila McIntosh,
Aye.
Sue Terrio, Tony Texera,
Aye.
Chief Rains,
Aye.
Jason Burchett,
Aye.
and Brett McKenzie.
I,
Okay, you're golden.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carol.
Mhm.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, we partly discussed off-road vehicle damage and consideration for a need for an ordinance. Sheila, can you give us a report on that? And would you be available to make comments to what she says?
After
Yes.
our last meeting, my husband and I went in and walked back in the area I thought Carol was referring to at our last meeting, where she had seen ATV signs in mud. Well, needless to say, there was no mud where we walked, but a lot of torn up ground from what looked to me like a lot of use by, I don't know whether it takes one ATV or more than one ATV. Roots were dug up. There was a lot of duff torn up, roots exposed. I took photographs. I took a little video, and I called the chief. And what we talked about was his first question was, is there a sign saying no ATVs? Which of course there isn't. And, there's no ordinance that prohibits damage to the wood. And I'm talking about, not the road part or the parking area or whatever, just the woods where we like to go and enjoy what's naturally there and not torn apart by a mechanized vehicle. So I looked at Tiverton's ordinances, and I looked at the ordinances that Little Compton has. And there is, I think, as I said earlier, Adamsville Recreation Field says horses, motorcycles, and motor vehicles shall be prohibited on this field. Public beaches, motorized vehicles of any kind shall not be permitted to traverse the public beach in the town. But this prohibition doesn't apply to emergency vehicles, of course. So I did think that there were other places in town that we might think about that we wouldn't want ripped up by motorized vehicles, like the new Jimmy Hayes Field and the baseball field, Veterans Lot, Town Landing, so, but I should just stick to Wilbur Woods and
Yeah, I think we should
come
stick.
up with a
Wilbur's
draft
woods.
language that I don't know how the others feel about this either, so.
Some of the wording that you gave us and
I just gave it to you, John.
okay. No motorized vehicles are allowed except in areas designated for access or parking. Some of the work, I think we have to allow motorcycles and off-track vehicles on the roads, right?
Yes,
We're just saying off the roads and parking areas.
that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
And emergency vehicles. I think the fire department has an ATV, some sort of vehicle they use for emergencies.
So Sheila, you talked to Chief Rains.
I did. He seems to have disappeared.
Okay.
No, he's,
No, he's still there.
Oh, good.
So, Chief, what, if Wilbur's Woods Committee would like to request that the town council create an ordinance so that motorized vehicles are prohibited from going off-road in Wilbur's Woods, what is the process? Does that go straight to do you send that to the request to town council? Or what's the process? One of them I noticed happens to have joined our group. Hi, Paul.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No, it's okay. What's the process of Chief Rains apparently looked into prohibitions of off-track vehicles going off the roads in Wilbur's Woods and found there were no ordinances in town preventing that. So I think that our committee would like to make a request to the town council that they look at an ordinance restricting motorized vehicles to the roads and parking areas in Wilbur's Woods. There may be other places in town that the town council might like to look at, but what's the process of our moving forward with a request?
All right, so Carol, I'll ask you first. Does the ordinance change require a public hearing?
It will, yes, of the council.
So just to everyone in the committee, remember that when we go or the town moves to change something, and I've got a little experience with this so far in about a year and a half, there's quite a ripple effect where you're going to get in this case, the ATV people who might not want this change, who might enjoy riding their ATVs through Wilbur Woods. So you're going to have to be able to explain yourselves and, to maintain the woods and the beauty of the woods and all of the, the plant life, et cetera, in there, I think covers that. But, there will probably be some people more likely that will not want the change. Change is difficult, as we all know. Along those lines, with the ordinance that states you can't utilize an ATV, if that does pass, along with that has to come a fine structure, because I have to be able to enforce that. So that's also something that will be up for discussion with the town council. And then just enforcing it in general. One day someone's going to walk through there and see ATV tracks. Well, unless we have some kind of physical evidence, video, or someone actually saw someone that they can identify operating the ATV, again, it's not enforceable. So we can put up all the signs we want, we can change all the ordinances we want. It's not going to be 100%. That's just the reality of it.
You can't leave someone full-time in Wilbur's Woods.
Well, if the town council wants to give me 5 or 6 more people, well,
All right, slow down, everybody.
Well,
No, I
also,
cannot assign anyone full-time to Wilbur.
The only comment I'd add to that about the ATVs is Wilbur's Woods is a sensitive area because of its wetland habitats. So there might be something, and I'm not speaking for the chief here, but there might be something in actually DEM's regulations about, motorized vehicles other than for maintenance or rescue or that type of stuff in a sensitive area. So
Yeah,
I think
that's
we have
exactly
to look
what
at
it
that
is.
angle as well.
That's exactly what I was trying to get at, Paul, but you've said it better than I did.
So Carol did do a management plan or a baseline funded by the Garden Club, I believe, and I don't have that in my packet of stuff, but I bet that probably already designates wetlands in that wood and might be helpful, as well as, you know, the plants and the trees that are growing in there. So,
Plus, it's a verified Native American site. It probably has another set of prohibited activities.
I don't, yeah.
It's like like a lively public hearing.
So it seems that there's enough restrictions or enough concern that, you know, the ordinance would probably pass. But again, I just warn everybody that enforcement of that is going to be difficult.
Right.
Let me ask a question.
So
Is
only-
hunting permitted in Wilbur Woods?
Oh, hunting?
I don't think there's any hunting on town property, no.
No, you have, hunters have to have permission from the landowners to hunt on that property, and obviously the town is not going to permit anyone to hunt in Wilbur's Woods.
Although on the last council agenda was the DEM is requesting that we lift the ban on hunting on Sundays because of the overpopulation of the deer. But that hasn't spilled over into our ordinances on town property, though.
And it's only fair to the ATV users that they know, because they're going to keep up with ordinances and regulations, that they may not run their vehicles in the wood, you know, so.
Sheila, you would like to think that they are all up to date on ordinances and where they can and cannot drive their ATVs. However, not always the case. But, you know, if the ordinance does change, we will certainly, we can post to our social media accounts through the police department, and that seems to spread the word. Obviously, there'll be an announcement at the town council meeting. So, you know, the word does trickle out. Whether people hear it or not, a different story.
Thank you.
The town may, if it goes to this goes to a public hearing, the town may want to consider other similar wordings for other places in town. Sheila, you were mentioning some, of course, we're just Wilbur's Woods Committee, but I don't know if the Beach Commission and other areas, maybe we need to contact the town, Beach Commission, et cetera, to see if they say that we're considering requesting a public ordinance. Would they like to join it, or does that make it too complicated? And should we just keep just focus it on Wilbur's Woods? What's the feeling of our group?
Stay focused with Wilbur Woods. The Beach Commission already, I mean, there's already no ATVs or vehicles other than emergency vehicles allowed in South Shore Beach. Lloyd's Beach, you couldn't access with an ATV anyway. So I think if we start picking and choosing other locations, we make more of a problem when we're trying to solve a problem.
Okay.
The Tiverton ordinance, general rules, applies to all town recreation, conservation, and open space areas. So they take care of it all in one fell swoop, but I like the stay focused idea.
I'm very happy to stay focused. We have a lot to do already. All right. Do we need a vote, I guess? Chief Rains, do you think that we should go to the town council and request this?
If you have enough interest in the committee, someone should make a motion to bring an ordinance change or an ordinance addition to the town council regarding the use of ATVs within Wilbur Woods and other vehicles.
And other vehicles.
So if that's important to you, which it seems it is to all of us, then someone should make a motion and we can vote on the motion. And then you as the chair can designate someone to head that letter to the town council.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion about this?
Okay, I'll move it since I'm the one who's going to end up with it. I'll move that we send a recommendation to the town council in the loop. I would like the administrator in the loop as well, that we come up with an ordinance that will prohibit the use of, I guess, ATVs, motorcycles, motorized off-road vehicles. I don't know if there's a generic term we can use that will cover everything we're trying to cover for for recreational use in Wilbur's Woods. I obviously don't want to prohibit the fire and the police department from running around in there if they're looking for someone or there's a fire or something's going on. But that's the ordinance should state.
Paul, Jason, what about if we just said any motorized vehicles leaving the parking area or not allowed to leave the parking area or the designated laneway, period?
Yeah, Jason would need an exception if he's doing tree work,
Well, this is true.
among other things.
Yeah,
Well,
but I think we're not looking at restricting anybody from driving around on the roadways. I think we're just looking for keeping people out of the woods, so to speak.
Exactly.
Jason obviously will be on in his job. I think we could write the ordinance in such a way that will say, you know, for work being done in there, for rescues, for fire purposes and all that. This doesn't include that. This is
Right.
just unauthorized, maybe there's the word, an unauthorized use of off-road vehicles in the woods, in Wilbur's Woods, because of its sensitive nature. So maybe I'll move it that way. Poor Sue, I've got her, she's writing a storm up down there.
Sue, do you feel comfortable with his wording? I don't know.
All right, so an off-road vehicle is okay on the main road. It's almost like an off-road vehicle. I think it's the off-road part. Like you can do the loop, you can park it, but you can't go off-road with it. Is that correct?
And I mean, we've got to kind of get it in line with what the chief is too, because how do you get an unregistered off-road vehicle into Wilbur's Woods and just ride the woods? I mean, I guess you could bring a trailer and trailer it there. That would be legal. But if you've got this unregistered off-road vehicle and you're going down Swamp Road, then it's the chief's turf. I mean, like, whoa, wait a minute. We're not giving them permission to go down a public road with this thing.
Maybe
But there are dirt bikes and enduro bikes that are registered
Right.
that go off-road.
Thanks to Sheila, this is John. I have the ordinance, the current ordinance, town ordinance on public beaches, which reads, and maybe we can lift some of the same language. Motorized vehicles of any kind shall not be permitted to traverse any public beach in the town. And we could change that, should not be permitted to leave the roads and parking lots of Wilbur's Woods, except in designated.
But not permitted except in designated.
Yeah, except for designated on the roads and parking areas. This subsection shall not apply to emergency and maintenance vehicles.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah, that works. I'll move that.
I second.
Okay, and I have it, so I can give it to you, Sue.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, we have a motion from Paul. Do we have a second?
Yep, Rob seconded it.
Rob, okay. Carol, do you want to do the vote?
Sure. Rob Mara,
Yes.
Tony Texera? You're muted.
He's
the
waving
record.
yes.
Yeah, I know. For the record, you need to hear it. Sue Terrio,
Aye.
Paul Golembeski,
Aye.
Chief Rains.
Carol, quick question. Should I abstain as I am the enforcing entity?
You can if you want to. It's not,
I'll abstain.
okay. Brett McKenzie,
Aye.
Jason Burchard,
Aye.
Sheila McIntosh.
Aye.
And I'd ask John Gwynn, but he's not at his camera.
John,
The old step out for the vote move.
Well, we'll say he didn't vote at this point.
here he comes, here he
Oh,
comes.
yes, hang on. John?
I,
Okay.
excuse me, I had to, my computer wanted me to plug itself in immediately. Excuse me.
Okay.
I'll plug in.
So it was unanimous, well, with the exception of Chief Raines abstained.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
Frank. Okay, good. Next item on the report to site visit, stream bank erosion and so on. Several of us looked at the condition. It's a good time to look at it with the streams bone dry. The East Bridge looks like there's a weak, Jason thought there was a very weak spruce timber holding up the East Bridge. I was particularly surprised at looking at the two areas where the roadway is immediately adjacent to the stream in two locations. And those are old dry walls holding up the roadway, and the stream turns the corner and hits those walls directly. I think we have to, maybe it makes it too large and complicated, but I think it would be terrible if the roads were taken out by winter storms. Maybe I'm incorrect in my worry, but I'm thinking that we may need to include that in the RFP to look at the condition of the retaining walls by the two roadways. And
John, if I may,
Yep.
real quick, Carol had also mentioned about the culverts, the drain pipes
yeah,
in those spots as well being a factor to the being too small, being a factor to the erosion as well, and maybe that should get mixed in with the RFP.
I don't know if they're too small. I don't know. Maybe it's better to have the culvert small to hold the water back on the backside, so there's less water going into the mainstream. I'm not an engineer, but I think you're right. That it should be included in the RFP. We looked briefly at the stepping stones, which are causing serious erosion and seem to threaten to undermine the Awashonk stone, and they're also have been tipped to the side so that they're quite dangerous if anybody tries to step over them. So there may need to be some way of temporarily relocating them out of the middle of the stream so that there's no to try to minimize the erosion problems. I'm thinking that probably a lot of this would go into the RFP. Does that make sense?
John, if I may,
Yep.
when you go in the laneway and you go immediately to the right, I guess it'd be south or east. I'm not sure which way it goes. The stepping stones have caused the eddies, which have eroded the sides of the fall, which has changed the direction of the water, which means it goes over and hits the side of the road there and is eating that road away.
On both sides. Yeah.
Right. And we've tried to, we had some people look at it, oh God, years ago to try and fix it. And it was just like DEM was like in I think coastal stops at Swamp Road, and then it's DEM. They were not too thrilled with us changing the course of a stream. So if we do get into an RFP, we have to make sure we've dotted all the I's and crossed the T's and how we approach this, saying what the erosion problem that we're trying to fix is not just the area of the waterfall, it's also going to affect downstream.
Well, I'm not quite sure. When you say that DM wouldn't like us playing around with the course of the stream, but aren't the stepping stones something that has affected the course of the stream?
Yes, but the stepping stones were there before there were regulations, so they're kind of like They kind of like put blinders on for this stuff, even though it's if it was a pollution problem, they'd be all over it and have us doing it right away. But it's an erosion problem that they've created by putting the stones there. It's just, and we in the RFP itself, we've got to address all the things that are happening, not just the right there locally.
So you're saying the stepping stones should go into the RFP?
Well, yeah, or I mean, you can, a lot of people have the attitude, if you're not doing anything really detrimental, do it and then ask for forgiveness. I just find that gets you into trouble every time you do that. But I think if we can prove that by removing the stepping stones or repositioning them somewhere further upstream, it's going to eliminate the erosion problems downstream. I don't know.
But I think if we just have a term that says we want the engineer during the engineering study to look at the erosion that's taking place in the road.
Right, right. And it'll back up to the stepping stones.
Right. Well, that's fine. Well, that way, you can't put in bridges and have the road eroding away. That doesn't make any sense. So it has to be addressed.
So,
John, if I may,
yep.
Tony, as one of the visitors there, and obviously we had quite a bit of discussion. The problem is the longer we wait, obviously the erosion will continue.
Yes.
Two, because of the dryness, how dry the stream is, I would suggest that we do minimal work there, but at least reposition while we can, get equipment in there and reposition those stepping stones to actually assist or prevent additional erosion, to just relocate them to the side, into those areas that we have concern right now.
As a temporary measure.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm. Tony,
Yes.
is there any way that the resiliency funds would be able to assist this project, especially with the culvert under the road that goes out to Swamp Road?
That's a good point. I'm not quite sure. I think there's a couple other projects that are jumping ahead right now. But that decision has not been made. There is a meeting coming up with Sean O'Rourke, Bob, Larry, and I. And at that point in time, that's when we'll have more information to bring out to the committee.
Okay, well, just another idea.
No, definitely. Good point. Thank you.
I have a question. Would you know where to put the stones at this point if you were to get some equipment in there and try to reposition them?
The thought was further upstream, like there's a bend and a shallow spot further upstream, maybe, and I'm guessing at distances here, but there's like a bend a little further up. It was to put it in there and make a walking path to them and across there. The other thought that popped up more recently was maybe if we do this RFP and we get it all, the bridges and everything wrapped up into one, we take the footbridge that we're actually going to replace with a passing bridge and somehow engineer that into where the stepping stones were. So we kind of get the stepping stones. There's some emotional attachment from some of the older folks to those stepping stones. I'm hesitant to remove them just for the emotional value of them, even though they are causing disruption of the stream.
But would we maybe cause more disruption by moving them? Like, so you have this new place in mind. Could that actually cause a problem in another place that as the
very possibly, yes, it could. Yeah, it could. And that was taken into consideration, but further upstream is way away from all the roads and everything like that. So if it created another eddy or another problem, then it wouldn't impact the roads, it wouldn't impact the stream, and the stones would still be there. But go ahead. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
No, I'm agreeing with Sue. It's just moving the problem to some place where the problem it creates won't be as detrimental than where it is.
when we were down there the other day, we thought just moving them a few feet north and south from where they are currently temporarily into the areas basically where the water is eddying now would enable the stream to continue unfettered down the middle of the stream, and that would protect the it would leave the stones there, but be used temporarily, use them to prevent further erosion on the sides. While we try to figure out where they could be put in the future as stepping stones. Right now, as you know, they're all tilted and pushed aside and dangerous because they're slippery.
Well,
So-
it's a very popular place, especially with all of us locals.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a dance we're gonna have to do to somehow do things like that. Can we go in there with an excavator and move them out of the way, and that's a great idea? Sure. Are we gonna get in trouble? Are we gonna have DEM come down on us or something like that? It's a good possibility because a lot of people walk through there. Even though we're not doing anything detrimental, we are, if you get into a stream and you start to move things around, they get very antsy, and they consider it, I don't know how to describe it. It's just they consider that a violation of changing the course of a stream. Even though we're changing it to bring it back to its original point, you're still changing it. I'm just very hesitant to do anything without DEM approval.
Well, we're planning to go to DEM very soon to check before we do the RFP. We were advised to go and talk to people at DEM in a friendly manner, asking their advice on how to restore Wilbur's Woods infrastructure to its traditional location and so on. So maybe that's the time to talk to them, but we have to do it very quickly before the rains come. If
No,
they
I
ever come.
agree.
If they ever come.
Take pictures now.
Yeah. All right. Good point. Sheila, can you take pictures for us?
Sure. Shall I put all that wood I dragged
learning.
your back so I can show what happens?
Yeah.
What the rocks do to create the damage?
Okay. Thank you for being volunteered. Okay. All right. It sounds like we need to go to DEM very quickly. Paul, do you have any name of Carol had a
Actually, I was talking to, the last time I was in there with Don McNulty, and he had a contact. So I think reach out to him. He might know who to reach out to.
I think it's
Carol Trockey knows as well.
Carol does as well. Yes, that's another good resource.
okay. Okay, we might as well go to the right person. Start off with the friendliest face
There you go.
with some power. Good. All right.
And they don't waive the fees, even though we're a municipality. So there is an application fee when we start.
Okay. We have 12,000 in our account, but you're saying we don't need to, if we're a municipality, we don't need to pay that?
No, you do have to pay it.
Okay. All right.
But I don't know if there's a forgiveness program because you're improving something. But I know if you're just applying to do something, you have to pay what everybody else pays.
Well, I would like to, I guess are we ready to have a motion to basically go to DEM, as we've already discussed, and include and ask them for their advice and counsel for 2 vehicular bridges, 2 possibly a weakened basis of the road, the stepping stones, a relocation, a possible relocation for the pedestrian bridge, and if we need to use some of our 12,005 to put in an application to DEM to initiate discussion. Does that motion make sense?
John,
Donna, did
Yep.
you have the culvert in there?
Nope, I forgot the culvert, including the
Enlarged
culvert.
culvert.
which go into the two areas where the road is built.
Right. And overflows in big storms, that whole section of the road will,
Okay.
it gets backed up and overflows.
I would call it 3 spots, John, actually, on the, when we had our trucks in there on the back side by where there's on the north side by where there's a stone about, let's see, about maybe less than a quarter mile past the right-hand bridge. There's a sharp turn right there. It makes a 90 going back towards the entrance. Right there, there's a drain pipe that goes under there that's compromised as well.
Okay. Before we have a motion, can I just, what happens if DEM says you can't have any of this? It's a
That's
wetland.
what I was thinking.
I woke up in the middle of the night saying, it's all a wetland. They'll say, oh, go away, just restore the whole thing. Then what would we like, how would we like to?
Well, I think that's the pleasant face and the way you approach them,
Yeah.
saying these are some of our things we need to do to fix this public park or public,
Yeah.
whatever we're calling it. And how do we approach you? How do we approach the permitting process? How do we go forward with this? Now, we could hire an engineer who knows how to work it, well, maybe, through Carol, or we can kind of go that way. But I think going in there, just being honest, saying, look, we've got this beautiful space we're trying to restore. How do we go about restoring it? Instead of going in and saying, this is what we're going to do, how about, these are all the problems we have. How do we do this?
That's exactly what we were talking about on site the other day, is basically to say, what's your advice on how best to approach this problem?
And we all know how much more we appreciate these open spaces now that we're locked down. I think it
Yeah.
puts a different spin on some of this.
Yes, it does.
John, just for clarification, I'm not sure if Paul, are you saying that we have to pay a fee to consult with them?
No. I'm
Oh,
saying
okay. All right,
in the permitting process, we're going to
yeah.
have to pay a fee.
right. Okay. But at this point in time, just to consult with them, to have them come down and walk through, there is a bubble on that.
Yeah, I think maybe, and there it is, John. Maybe that's Tony's got it right. We asked him to come down and take a look at what's going on and what we're trying to do here. How do we approach this? How do we do this? I think if we approach them as the help, not the enemy, so to speak, that's the approach we should be taking on this.
Exactly. Yeah, there are friends helping us. Exactly. All right. So we'll see if we can get them to come down here, but I'm game to go to DEM, if that help to start the process too. I mean, go to DEM. I'll contact them in any way. In any case, happy to do that. So I guess I'm asking for a motion and the wording would be something to contact DEM, ask them to come down and look at our site. We would go over the 6 or 7 items that we've already talked about, including the culverts, the bridges, et cetera, including the stepping stones, ask their advice about that. I will try to say there seems to be some kind of need to do it very quickly while it's dry to look at it. And also potential winter rains can wash out bridges more and so on. So we want to get going with the process. And if necessary, I probably will come back to the committee before we need to spend any money for permitting, but we would be prepared to spend some of our funds if necessary to help expedite and get this in motion. Would anybody like to make to forward that as a proposal? Do we have any?
Sure.
Paul, you sound like you'd like to.
Okay.
All right. Any seconders?
A second.
Okay, Sheila, okay. And shall we do a vote? I guess. Carol, would you like to do the vote?
Sure. Tony Texera,
Aye.
Bob Mara,
Aye.
Sue Terrio,
Aye.
Paul Golembiski,
Aye.
Sheila McIntosh,
Aye.
John Gwynn,
Aye.
Pete Rains,
Aye.
Jason Burchett,
Aye.
Brett McKenzie.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Good, we're getting a lot done. Okay, the next item on our agenda is update on bridge engineering RFP. Basically, we're going to try to expedite that in conjunction with the schedule that we talked about earlier. And we are, but we are going to go to DEM prior to that so that we can focus, better focus our RFP toward what needs to be done and what DEM would be receptive to. So then we only have one other item on the agenda, other items for further discussion. Does anyone, are we forgetting anything? A lot seems to be happening. So I thank everybody for letting your arm get it twisted.
I'd like to
Yeah.
have
Oh,
one
yes.
thing for future discussion, and I think it went back to Sheila's, I think some of Sheila's comments early on about the road and the maintenance plan. There is some additional land, I think sort of towards the north where there's a walking path. Is that right?
Yes.
So I was thinking that in some future meeting, we should sort of make sure that in that maintenance plan, this additional, and there was some additional area that was added to the woods, I think during the council in 1992 or something like that. And I was thinking that we might want to look at that to see in that maintenance plan, we've got what we have, and then what were these other things, these plans that weren't put into, because I think that path just sort of peters out somewhere the last time I walked it.
Do we have a, has anyone ever seen a drone photo or really good satellite photo of Wilbur's Woods?
I'm sure Carol could provide that for you.
Okay. I'll ask Carol. That might be a good something, particularly a photo taken in winter so we can see the paths and see everything. And we could put, good, that would be really good. I will ask Carol, okay. All right, when would we like to have our next meeting? I think that we have some assignments, but I don't want to have it drag on too long. Is 3 weeks too short, too long? How about a month? Like the 3rd of November happens to be election day. I think everybody's going to be busy with that. How about the 10th of November? Is that too far? If we stick on Tuesdays, or is Tuesday a bad day for anyone?
My work schedule is so chaotic that I can't promise anything. I thought 3 would be fine, but
Yeah.
I'll do my best to make it.
Or do you want to try earlier, October 19th, with the people who are
Well, I mean, if we're going to keep with Tuesdays, what about October the 27th?
I have a doctor's at 2:30, but how about I could be back by 4 or do it in the morning.
Afternoons are actually, late afternoons are better for me.
Better for me as well.
Okay, how about 4:30? How about 5 p.m.?
5 on the 27th?
Yep.
The only
That's good.
way that works is if you are done by 6:30, because I have to do the beach commission meeting at 7.
I think we'll just have to be done by 6:30, and anything else will roll on to the next meeting.
So October 27th at 5 p.m., you said?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Thank everybody for doing all this work. Everybody's working hard. Wilbur's Woods is a wonderful place. went there yesterday to look at the ATM damage and so on, and it was wonderful to see a little bit of moisture. The roads weren't quite as dusty and so on, so gives a cause for optimism. We may have a wetland, not a desert after all. Thank you very much. I guess we're adjourning.
All right.
Thanks, Brett, for
Thank you,
joining us.
John.
Thanks, Paul, for joining us late. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry,
you.
apologies for being late.
No,
Thank
no,
you.
thanks for being able to join